and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. My kitchen is still kind of messy. This is actually a new mess, believe it or not. But I've got a different kind of priority today. Today we are having a heat wave. We had one earlier in the year that was a little bit worse, but still 105 feels like temperature is really hard on the plants and animals. And right now it's only 11 a.m. It's not too hot yet. And there's some things that I want to get done and take care of before the real heat sets in. Well, surprisingly, the camera didn't fog up too bad when I walked outside. The sun is going to be bright because it's a weird time of day. But we usually will harvest the garden every 2 days when it's at its peak like this. And normally I like to harvest the garden towards the end of the day. It's a lot cooler at the end of the day, and in the beginning of the day is usually when I do my animal chores and things, just to make sure that they're all set. But unfortunately, on days when we have these heat warnings, these heat indexes, the hottest times of the day are generally right around 2 or 3 p.m. until sunset, and so evening time is going to be sweltering. I can see and hear a lot of the Japanese beetles this year. I think that they're probably one of the main pests that I've really seen much of at all this year. Usually we deal with right about this time, actually closer to June. I mean, we're almost in August now and I haven't seen but one tomato hornworm, which is kind of insane. It was in the kids' garden and she took it out, and I haven't seen any in my garden. It's been weird. Not that I'm complaining, it's just I'm used to seeing more of those things for sure. There's a fat one. These here are the contender bush beans, and this is my first year growing them. And even though this bean is pretty big, it's actually decently tender, and I don't mind eating them this big at all. Great big Belgian giant. Look at that funny little, like a navel on it. I don't necessarily have a problem skipping harvesting days. The issue with this is that the heat wave is gonna last through tomorrow, and I don't really want to go more than about 3 days. Like, even that's pushing it to me. I like to harvest every other day, but I like to keep things consistently picked and harvested because it's just gonna encourage the plants to put on more fruit. Now, that's not the case with something like corn. Picking more corn isn't going to cause the corn to create more corn ears. But with this, I'd like to get it off really as soon as it's ready because I don't want it to get ravaged by bugs. I noticed that some of the corn put on these little cute little baby ears for contrast. Here's one of the bigger ones. So there's these little tiny ones on there. Shaika, my youngest, our youngest, he's gonna get such a kick out of this. Oh my God, it's so perfect for him. I saw a flash of red in here. This is a brandywine that's being eaten by my birdhouse gourd. Just one side started to ripen. This is an example of what can happen when you let fused blossoms or fasciated blossoms get to maturity. Sometimes one of the blossoms will ripen faster than the other ones, and since they're all fused together, it kind of affects, you know, the same one fruit. So this side has started to ripen, and this side has kind of too. This will probably ripen just fine inside. I just have to watch this side. There is a pretty decent breeze blowing around. Now it's coming straight from the south, and usually that means it's heat that's coming in. So I totally believe the forecast. It is going to be hot. Raving. Oh, these bugs. I keep getting dive bombed by those nasty Japanese beetles. Oh. I hate them, but as far as I can tell, they really haven't been causing any kind of damage to the garden. At least not much. I noticed a few little like cuts taken out of some of the green bean leaves. and maybe some of the cucumber leaves over on the lane. We're about to go over there right now. But we encourage a healthy bird population around here. And while they can kind of be destructive towards the garden, they really haven't been too bad. And I think they've been eating a lot of those June bugs, or Japanese beetles. I called them June bugs last year and got corrected, which totally fine. Here's our blackberry haul for the day. The blackberries have really started to slow down, which is good. I mean, it's time for them to slow down. This is our second, I think it's our second year with that blackberry patch technically, but it's our first year getting a harvest out of the blackberries. And I think we got probably a total of 3 gallons off of our little patch, and I think that's pretty good. I actually have the irrigation systems going on in the lane and in the greenhouse. I've had them on for too long. It's been about 4 hours, so time to shut them off. I didn't put the sprinklers on in the raised bed garden, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I knew I was gonna harvest and didn't wanna be in there harvesting while it was wet. My little thermostat in here says it's 103 in the greenhouse right now. As I mentioned, it's 11 a.m. and this is not going to be the hottest portion of the day. And one of the reasons, besides the fact that the greenhouse and the lane needed it, but one of the reasons that I ran irrigation today in this space is because humidity really helps plants get through the heat. Now, of course, that's not the case for mammals. We sweat to try to handle the heat. The plants, they do what's called transpiration, and lots of sun or wind or heat can cause the leaves to release moisture, and the humidity in the air helps kind of lock that in so that there's a little less moisture loss, and that helps them get through the heat. Ooh, looky here. This is a beautiful okra bloom. I think I've only got one harvestable pod on here today. And the succession planting of scallop squash to replace the old faithful plant is starting to produce pretty well. Got one here and a big one over here. The temperature increased 1.5 degrees in probably the 15-20 minutes maybe that I was in there, so it's heating up. It's definitely a hot one out there. So I've gotten some questions about our shed that we built earlier in the year. I decided I wanted it to be black with a red roof. And there were some concerns, including concerns of my own, that it would be pretty hot in the summertime. But this is the second heat wave that this shed has been through, and I can confirm that this shed stays probably about 10 degrees cooler than my house. All right, so it's been a few minutes. I have gone inside and cooled off some, but the animals really need the most attention on days like today. Usually if we're gonna have some kind of heat advisory and I've been invited to go somewhere, I will politely decline because I'm so worried while I'm gone that something is gonna happen to one of my animals. And it's not an unfounded fear. We have had animals die on hot days, and it breaks your heart. We've had them die when we have given them as much care and attention as we can muster. Now, the heat is the harshest for rabbits in my experience. Out of anything on the homestead, rabbits and pigs are the most sensitive to the heat. So we're gonna check on our pigs. Right now I'm wondering if I shut off the water to their wallow. I might not have. It might have been running for many hours, which would make them so happy. I think I can hear it from here. I left the water on, but it's okay. Days like today are good days to leave the water on. There's actually nobody in the wallow. Hey! They're inside their little house right now. But the wallow's good and full. The first time that I left the water on like that, the water company called me and they're like, Heather, are you filling a pool? And I said, no, I must have left the wallow on. But they don't call me anymore. And if you're wondering, it costs me about $60 every time I leave the water on like that, depending on how long it's been. Hey girls. You girls are hanging in there. Hey Tori. Hi, Shandy. There we go. Goats generally handle heat pretty well. It stays pretty cool in the barn. I've got 3 different fans for airflow, and this is the south wall, so there has been wind blowing straight into this shelter area for them. That's nice. I don't know if the wind is really gonna last. My goats with horns tend to handle the heat better than the ones without horns. And that's because there is a huge blood vessel inside the horn that acts like, you know, elephant ears, where the elephants can kind of fan their ears, and all the blood that's out in those ears is out away from their body, their central body heat, and it cools down, and as it circulates back into the body, it in turn cools their body. It's a lot like that. It's kind of dark down this hallway, but my goat that handles the heat the least well is Elpis. She's back here with her mama. She has shed a lot of her winter hair. For some reason, some of my goats really like to hang on to their winter hair for a long time. I mean, we're almost in August, and her mom are finally just shedding out the last bits of their winter hair. A lot of people will shave down their goats to get ready for summer. That's something that I think I'll consider in future years. It's never something that I've worried too much about since we don't really show or anything. The look of it hasn't mattered, but the utility of shaving them really could benefit them. I recently put in this green shade cloth in the barn, and this covers the east side, and I feel like it helps a lot. It does restrict airflow a tiny bit. It's a 70% shade cloth, and it's got, you know, holes in it, so it's permeable to the air, but it still is kind of a buffer for the air. But it helps a lot because the morning sun doesn't just beat down in here and just kind of stay in here. When the day starts out super hot like that, it's really hard as the day goes on for the barn to cool down. So if it doesn't start out really hot, it doesn't get really hot. I hope that makes sense. Oh, we've got needy babies. Needy. I've got 3 pregnant girls in the barn right now. Pepper, right here, she's 3 months bred. All of the ones who are bred are 3 months bred right now. Why are you mean? Why are you mean? Save your energy. It's hot. Mayhem, right here, 3 months bred. She's got horns. She handles the heat really well. Come, Mama. She's got babies on board. And then we passed Pesky. Pesky down here. She is 3 months bred. Woo! Holding them in good. Looks like Pesky has the best seat in the house, right under the fan on the nice cool floor. And about every 2 hours, hour and a half every 2 hours, I will come down to the barn and make sure that everybody looks good. I don't want anybody getting close to heat stroke. The pigs are hiding in here in their little hut. Hi, Bo. How you holding up? Yeah. Is one of you coming into heat? Crazy, don't mess with them. I know you're just as big. Yeah, someone's in heat. Who is it? Who's in heat? See her panting? You need to just calm down. You're getting too hot. You tell him, Tolly, break it up. Mars, our livestock guardian, he's a smart boy. He likes to hang out way out there in the tree line where it's shady all day right next to the water. I know he's nice and cool. Right now, these rabbits seem to be handling the heat just fine. What I don't want is for them to cock their head back with their nose up. They'll open their mouth a little bit and then they'll drool. Bad news. Bad news. That's when they would have to come inside. So there are a couple different things that you can do for rabbits in the heat. I have sometimes exhausted all efforts, like I've talked about before, and they've still died. So if push comes to shove and you have a cardboard box, literally just pack them in that and bring them in your house. 1 rabbit per box, close them up, put them in a nice cool, dark place. They'll be fine. We've already moved most of the rabbits outside. Those rabbits in that hutch next to our carport, those are our bucks. We have had a hard time with bucks in years past getting through really hot days. They have done extremely well out there. Our last heat wave was a feels like temperature of 115. Those bucks did excellent out there. Let's see, they've got their fan here. We have frozen water bottles, which I need to come and put out here and give each rabbit. I try to wait until the hottest part of the day to pull those out because I don't have a bunch of water bottles frozen. I need my freezer space for the food that we have. So if they can have those by about 2-3 o'clock, that's when it's going to benefit them the most. But again, if that doesn't help, they're coming straight inside. A lot of people too will put tile down, ceramic tile down inside the cages, and the rabbits will lay on that and keep cool. My mister broke, but last year what worked really well for us is misting down the rabbits' ears with room temperature water. And just like I mentioned with the elephant's ears and the goat's horns, that will really help cool down their blood and cool down their bodies. There's at least 3 Japanese beetles in this watering can. On the other side of the carport here too, we do have 4 rabbit tractors. 3 of them have meat bunnies that are due to be processed probably in a few weeks to a month. We're gonna have to see. Sometimes rabbits eat a little bit less over the summer because it's hot, so they'll grow a little bit slower. So where we might take out bunnies to 8 to 10 weeks in like the fall or the spring before we process them, sometimes in the dead of winter and in the heat of summer, they take a little bit longer, and it might be closer to 12 weeks before they're at butcher size. But in order to keep them cool out here, we only put in a maximum of 5 rabbits per 5 by 2 foot cage out here. Obviously keep them well watered. Bowls are a lot more helpful for rabbits to stay hydrated over bottles. And then it's also really helpful to put water on top of flat top cages like this. It can kind of stand on top, and as the heat and the sun makes it evaporate, that also helps whisk away the heat and keep them cool. I know that they make like watering systems for the roof of your house to help keep your house cool in the same way. I really wish I had one of those for my barn. Maybe one year that will happen. It is definitely not this year. Super hot, guys, and make sure that if you're out there in the heat, I know a lot of you have been dealing with the heat well before now in places like Texas. Try to stay out of the heat for long lengths of time in the middle of the day. Really take care of yourself, hydrate, use electrolytes, whatever you got to do to keep yourself in tip-top shape so you can take care of all the things. I'm gonna take these few baskets of things inside and deal with them. It's a good activity to do in the middle of a hot day. Spend some time dealing with veggies inside in the AC. Thank you so much for joining me on the farm today. Stay cool, and I'll see you guys again soon.